Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Jack and today I am going to read one interesting post from Malicious Compliance about how one man got out of so many speeding tickets they had to change the law. So, let's start. My father has been a lawyer here in BC, Canada for more than 30 years. When he was starting out in his 30s he was hustling hard to support a stay-at-home wife and me, his young son. As he was very much a personality with not much patience, he sped on the highways, often. And he got speeding tickets, often. However, he took every single one to court and had every single one overturned. The reason was quite simple. At the time Canada was in the process of switching over from imperial mph to metric kph and all of the road signs had to be replaced. Now the BC legal code specified that a road sign was legally comprised of two signs on a pole. Apparently at some point someone in charge of replacing all the signs with the new metric ones decided that they could save a considerable amount of money by printing all the information on one sign. But this no longer complied with the specifics of the legal code. So he would go back to the exact sign that he was ticketed because of and take a picture of it and then bring the picture to court along with a copy of the laws in question. His defense was very simple. He would allow the arresting officer to take the stand and give his testimony regarding the issue of the ticket, and then show the officer the picture he took and ask them to identify whether that was the sign that he had sped past. They always agreed, saying that it was in fact the very same sign. He thanked them and then dismissed them with no further questions. He would then bring the picture to the judge along with the bookmark page of the BC Highway Act and present the judge with the exact wording of the law, followed by his factual argument that since there was only a single sign posted, it did not constitute a legal road sign as defined in the Highway Act. As I said before, every single ticket was dismissed and all my dad lost was a half an hour of his time. This worked for almost a decade, with him overturning literally thousands of dollars of speeding tickets until the law was changed. He still speeds, by the way. Bureaucrat cuts costs on road signs, but they no longer fit the legal definition, so my dad sped like a fucking madman for years with zero consequences. An explanation from a friendly Redditor as my telling of this story was from a recollection of several years ago. I'm old enough to remember when Ontario put the new signs up. At that time, they were a white sign with black lettering that said maximum up top, the speed in obviously giant font below that, and then, on a separate piece of metal below that, same width as the above sign but 1/4 the height, with black background and white text, kilometer per hour. Maybe that's where the two signs part comes from. Over the years, the two signs were merged to become one piece of metal, and appeared to be two because the sign shop drew outlines around both parts of it as it had been when it was two. I got a friend who works as a traffic investigator for a county. That's literally the subject of his job. Is the sign lawful? Things like, is it the proper distance from the last sign? If it's a speed change, does it give proper warning? If it's a stoplight, is it visible for a certain distance approaching the intersection? He said if I ever got a ticket to ask as part of a discovery motion to have the road investigated. He said there's almost always something wrong with the signs versus what's required. I got a parking ticket because I left my car in a spot where the rules were covered by two different signs. It was a little confusing, but if I had paid closer attention I would not have screwed up. Anyway, I was skeptical that the configuration of the signs was legal. I'm a lawyer and knew how to do the step-by-step research, ending with the National Standards Guide for Road Signs, which was designated as official by other laws. Turned out that the sign configuration in question was expressly allowed. There was even a photograph of it. Oh well. Edit, I was really just hoping for a fun day in parking ticket court, where I could discuss the issue with one of my county's overqualified judges pro them. My dad got out of speeding tickets for years in the same area, all because tree branches were somewhat blocking the sign. The sign was still absolutely readable, but there was a law stating that the sign had to be 100% unobstructed. When the city decided they were over his shenanigans and cut back the tree, he did what any reasonable person would do. Took a ladder out there and took a picture of the sign from above so it looked like it was still obstructed. The judge asked him how he could possibly not be aware of the speed limit after being stopped there so many times. My dad's reply was that was hardly the point, the law was very clear. Got out of that ticket too. My dad got out of a speeding ticket once because between the intersection he used to turn onto the street and the next intersection there was no speed limit sign. There was one further up the street past his intersection, but it could be and was easily argued he'd have no way to know what that sign said having not driven past it that day. Cops love to post up there for tickets because for that mile or so the road dipped into a downhill before turning back uphill. Easy to catch someone who might not be paying close attention to their speed. They had a sign up within the week. My dad likes to say it's his sign. One time they were switching the road signs around here because they had lowered the speed limit for a considerable chunk of the highway. Apparently they weren't paying very close attention because one side of the road was 55 miles per hour and the other side was 45 miles per hour. The kicker was that on the 45 miles per hour side there was still a yellow caution sign advising you to slow down to 50 miles per hour for the turn. After calling the traffic department and complaining about this, I was told that a whole bunch of speeding tickets had to be tossed out because even the officers couldn't figure out what the speed limit was supposed to be, and they assured me it absolutely wasn't supposed to be different on each side of the road. About a week later they fixed the signs after months of it being this way. I assume I wasn't the only one that called, and the state police complaining added a bit of "oh shit, we better fix this" to the equation. This is a great story and all, but I hope your dad doesn't cause an accident one day with his selfish driving. Don't think he'll be able to get that dropped. The bureaucrat was not lazy. He did his job and saved taxpayer dollars. The part that messed him up was the lack of communication between the department in charge of signage, the lawmakers in charge of keeping the laws updated, and the courts responsible for enforcing the laws. The bureaucrat was jumping the gun and sounds like someone we need working in government. Usually someone will come up with an idea, a law or change in laws will be proposed, lawmakers will pass the law or change, then the law or change will be enforced or acted upon. Yeah, that's my only complaint with an otherwise great story. Why is the bureaucrat who did a good job somehow lazy? It's not their job to write laws or to be a legal expert, nor can government realistically have legal counsel look in depth at every single thing the bureaucracy does. If you think bureaucracy is slow or lazy now, imagine if they did have to do that sort of thing. There was an issue like this in the US with construction zones a decade or so ago. They made a shit ton of orange speed limit signs for use in construction zones. Then someone pointed out in court that the MUTCD specifically says that speed limit signs must be black numbers on a white background. A bunch of tickets for speeding in construction zones got thrown out. Now the speed limit signs are big orange signs, with white rectangle in the middle with the speed limit. So it's both an orange construction sign, and a speed limit sign that's black on white. I'm a lawyer. Your story is a perfect illustration of the maxim that courts have to apply statutes strictly according what they actually say, not what everybody knows, the legislature intended, or what makes sense. I'm going to save your post and cite it to the idiots I encounter on Reddit who do not, will not, cannot and staunchly refuse to understand that the law is what it says and not something else. I've all but given up sharing what I know on account of the abuse I get in return from graduates of the Reddit High School of Law. Here's another case in a similar vein, State v. Kolish, Oregon Court of Appeals, 2002. It says that a statutory mandate to cops to post a sign warning that photo radar in use doesn't have to be aimed at the traffic being monitored because the statute doesn't specify that. In Indiana with driver's ed you can get your driver's license at 16 years and 180 days. As the day approached, my dad had a very important meeting on May 17th, my half-birthday, and I was really bummed about having to wait to get my license since I had already made plans, a mix CD, the whole shebang. My dad and I were talking about it and he said he wishes there was a way we could just do it the day before since he had nothing to do that day. Then I remembered the wording. 180 days. I called the license branch and they said 180 days, not exactly 6 months. I counted out days and 180 days landed on May 16th and I was able to get it early. I was so happy. As my dad was signing the paperwork and clarifying insurance, he sent me to get us food now that I could drive alone. I got lost 3 times and went to a Rally's and went down the wrong side, the side where the passenger pays and receives the food. I was mad a few years ago because I got nabbed at spot that I think was designed as a speed trap. Basically it was a divided highway with a 70 miles per hour limit and they dropped the speed limit to 35 out of nowhere. I'm not a lawyer, but I deal with federal code a lot for work, so I dug into the state rules about setting speed limits and found out they couldn't do that unless they did a traffic study on that section of road. I triumphantly went down to the city hall and requested the traffic study, which they produced. I still think they fucked with it. It basically said that normal traffic flow there was 35, which I find preposterous. But I figured I wouldn't have much a chance arguing that. This wouldn't work in Virginia, for two related reasons. I've been told using similar defenses that the court looks more at the spirit of the law rather than the explicit technical text of the law. Which is probably bullshit because it really boils down to VA loves speeding ticket revenue and the GDC will never ever let you off the hook. You could probably overturn the ruling if you appealed, but that would be a pretty expensive waste of time. Funny you should mention that. I've appealed a speeding ticket in Virginia before. The day before the trial, the Commonwealth's attorney mailed me a copy of their motion to dismiss, citing a code section that they purported meant that the circuit court had no jurisdiction to hear appeals on speeding tickets. I'm struggling to find that code section now, but I distinctly remember it saying something to the effect of emphasis mine, any criminal matter not felonious shall be able to be appealed to the circuit court. That alone didn't make sense to me, since felonies definitely do get appealed, but it certainly didn't say anything about precluding me from appealing my citation. I got a friend who was a lawyer to represent me since it seemed they were up to some tricks, and we opposed their motion because there seems to be no reason why I can't appeal a speeding ticket to that court, and he also filed a motion for sanctions against the Commonwealth's attorney for filing such a disingenuous motion. The Commonwealth's motion was granted, ours denied, in an order from the judge that didn't really answer the question of law at all, just said, "Yeah, court agrees that it can't hear this matter, buzz off." That's it, guys. Hope you enjoyed this video. Please hit like and subscribe for more daily videos.